Right now, it's not giving.
No sound. You hear me? Sam.
I have a feeling this is not going to be much better, but
Yeah.
how's it coming through?
Yeah, it's like before, bits and pieces.
Well, I'm going to definitely ask when the service people come out. Dino?
Yes, sir.
Let me check and see if your download came through here.
It did. For me.
Good. How to help polyscopy. PIDD. There we go. Okay, so I just received it. Obviously, I'm only going through it right now for the very.
Okay, I turned on my.
This appears that you've finished what we looked at the other day. Is this? Would you call this completion of this particular presentation, or is there more to come?
No, what I want with this presentation is just to put the ball in play.
Yeah.
And begin a conversation.
Okay. Okay, good.
Just go ahead. I'm planning to take about 15 minutes, then we have about 25 minutes to. Okay, but then we can use your screen, Sam.
Yeah, that
You want to
works.
share screen? Because I'm sharing it right now, but you can actually do it since you are driving. Would you like to do that?
I see. Yeah, maybe. Let me do that.
Okay.
So I will share screen. I will turn on the polyscopy. Okay. Yeah, the problem is that.
Hey, Gavin.
You see it? Sam?
You have to click the window and then say start, I think.
I tried to share a screen, but maybe you can share your screen. It doesn't matter.
All right, I'll share the screen.
Yeah, because then I also see.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, Gavin is here. Hello, hello. Wonderful to see you.
Very glad to be back.
This is a little bit pointed. It's a bit
Conversations.
This is a bit technical, Gavin. I don't know if you will be happy with it or lost. We should ask you, how are you?
Dino.
Yes, sir.
Since we're time limited, why don't
you dive in? Okay, so can you go back to the beginning?
Okay, here we go. How to help polyscopy. Let's go through this.
Unfortunately, it seems.
Okay, so the beginning of this is that I think Frude proposed last time, it's a pity that he's not here, that we focus today on how to help polyscopy, this question. So I want to put the ball in play with a few slides. Next. Sam, can I have the next slide, please? Sam? Oh, yeah.
My internet connection is very slow, guys. So I did hear you. I did go to the next page, but it clearly took a while to update.
No problem. Okay, so
if I drop off, then Dino, you're going to have to share your screen, and I'm going to hope that the recording actually continues.
Okay, so here polyscopy is walking its talk. So before we begin, we talk about the scope, meaning I'm proposing that we look into something, and the question is, why should you be interested? Why should you be interested in looking at this particular thing? And so I'm giving you 2 points of motivation. Number one is Don't move on, please. Then, maybe this one. Number one is that there is this need in society and also a huge opportunity that we use our crises to accelerate our evolution and begin a great cultural revival, which, according to Aurelio, is something we just have to do. And so here is my main point. If you forget everything else, please don't miss this one. We are talking here about augmenting our ability to re-evolve culturally. And that means exactly the ability that Aurelio Peccei was saying we have to develop at this point. By removing two major obstacles that were pointed to about half a century ago by some people with insight and authority. I say here, they're really famous people, which when they say, okay, guys, look at this, we should have looked. I mean specifically Vannevar Bush with the organization of knowledge, and Werner Heisenberg with the epistemology issue. And so polyscopy is a natural, I would say, answer to both.
Hey, Gavin, if you're typing, could you please mute?
And so what I want to say here is that there is a natural approach to our issues. Or maybe it's the natural approach, right? And the natural approach is just taking the natural next steps in our evolution, cultural evolution and the evolution of knowledge or knowledge work. And so that's what polyscopy undertakes to do, right? In some structured, organized way. So instead of wondering how to solve our problems and panicking about our situation, there is just this natural way, which is let's do what these really smart people and knowledgeable people told us we should do half a century ago. Next, please. So the other one is more in our immediate context. That's Program for the Future or Realizing Doug's Dream. Well, there is a natural way to do this too. And that is to reproduce what I'm calling here the simula, object orientation simula pattern. And that will be that we, first of all, create a vision of what knowledge work should be like. And then create tools for this vision. Now, there is this magnificent synergy, right? If you're a tools creator, and Doug was recognized as a tools creator, he wanted obviously much more. Isn't it natural to begin this much more by essentially creating a plan how knowledge work should be, how information should be, how it should be created, what it should be like. And then providing the tools for this. So there is synergy between object orientation as methodology, as a way of thinking about programming, and Simula as a toolkit that implements this. We want to engender a similar synergy between the tools that we are creating here and basic fundamental thinking about information and knowledge. Next, please. And so now a direct answer to Fruda's question, how can we help polyscopy and Dino? There are essentially three ways. One is what I'm proposing to do here on this channel, and maybe this has already been accepted, maybe we're already doing this, and that is interaction design. That means let's create the toolkit for polyscopy. Let's create the equivalent of object, or rather simula, or object orientation in the sense of basic principles and basic objects such as objects and inheritance and so on. Okay, number two is promotion. Okay, so let me focus on this word transdiscipline. What transdiscipline here means is that we create a prototype of knowledge federation in practice, that is the knowledge federation platform, and then we here act as a transdiscipline. We encapsulate this thing, and by using the best of our knowledge, we update it continuously so that it represents state of the art of interaction design or polyscopic interaction design or knowledge media design. Number two, promotion and synergy. Let's play ball together, right? We can together make this happen. And by making it happen, we can open up to some, I would say, tremendous synergy between what we are doing already and actually polyscopy. We can unpack the details, right? I want to be quick and I'll just run through these things. Number three is being in the same reality or dialogue. You know, what has been my almost daily experience for 2 decades or so is people say, oh, I totally understand you, I want to help you and so on and so forth, right? But the moment we start speaking, the moment you are talking about anything that shifts the paradigm, that moment people become upset. They sort of want to get on your case and either prove you that you're wrong or simply they are just upset, they feel uncomfortable. An alternative to this is dialogue, and dialogue means let's basically just make an attempt to be in the same reality, just understand, you know, the flow of this development, and you know, it would help me immensely. It would help me tremendously just being in that same reality together with close people. It hasn't been my daily experience. The opposite has been my daily experience. Please, next slide. And so I'm just going to flash just a few slides of how I see the user interaction now in the Polyscopy platform, where this user interaction has been evolving. And then we can choose to focus on that or on anything else. So we are entering a document, in this case, the Polyscopy platform, from the scope. Why should we care? Why should we be interested? And once we see that this is worth looking at, we do care, then we talked about this last time, right? There is this purgatory or detox chamber where you can say, we learn about polyscopy or we develop the ability to dialogue, or we enter into this kind of way of being, which is conducive to dialogue. So I don't know exactly how this will be, right? But let it be a kind of a black box at this moment, and we can move on. Once we have been through these 2 things, then what meets the eye is possibly the gestalt, and that is the big picture, right? What is this whole thing telling us? So, if we care about the scope, this is the big message, right? What is the big message? And then we can explore. So there are these 2 essentially points of view in polyscopy. One, what I'm showing you now, I picture it as going up the mountain and seeing the big picture, seeing which way we need to go, right? So polyscopy is all about that. It's all about essentially growing information upwards so that you can see the big picture, see the gestalt. And so here's the gestalt, and you can verify the gestalt and see the details by looking at different aspects, patterns, data, and so on. And once we are through with the gestalt, we can go down the mountain and pursue the direction that the gestalt is pointing to. That's the action. And then we can look at prototypes, designs, patterns, projects, and so on, or rather design patterns. You're welcome to interrupt me at any point. If you don't, I'll just run through this. And since you're not interrupting me, I would please have the next slide. So the next few slides are already familiar. I would just like to flash them and tell you how they embody what we have just seen. This is the beginning of the polyscopy mock-up as it is now. And the first thing that you see is, you can say, a scope, an invitation into a certain way of looking, which is saying we are ready for the Renaissance. We just need to learn how to put what we already know together. Well, that's exactly what polyscopy is about. So we're going to see now two things. One is how to put what we know together, and we're going to use polyscopy in order to create an evolving roadmap to an impending enlightenment. Impending in the sense that it's ready to happen. When we put together what we know, it will already happen. Basically, it will already start happening because it has to happen based on what we know. Okay, next, please. Yeah, maybe I should have screen shared myself. Okay, so here we are. This is now, we are in polyscopy proper, and I'm just using these, you have seen them many times already. I'm just using them to point to some of the building blocks of polyscopy interaction design as I see it now. So what you see in the middle is, or should be a kind of a gestalt. There is a sweeping wave of change that is impending, it's ready to happen. And then what we see around, so this is, in the middle is the circle, right? What you see in the round is the four edges of a triangle. There are four aspects of the gestalt, four ways to climb the mountain. In each of these four, we see basically the same picture from a certain angle, right? From a certain aspect. So on the left, what might play the role of Copernicus? That is the role of changing the very foundations of how we think. And then on that kind of change, naturally Renaissance happened, right? On the way up, you see the change of worldview, by which something that seems just kind of normal today will appear as witch trials after the worldview change. So we may wonder, can we see the witch trials, the equivalent of witch trials at this point? The equivalent meaning something that we routinely do that will appear after the change as witch trials. On the right, you see what about the humanism in the Renaissance. This is the Renaissance scenario story. And on the bottom, you see what might be the next industrial revolution. So these are the four aspects of the big change that happened during the 300 years or so after the late Middle Ages, after the 1500s, until the 1700s, 1800s. Okay, next, please. So when you click on any of these, you enter into a certain kind of view. And what we're going to see now is, I think, one of those views. Yeah, what might play the role of Copernicus, and we can see this is described in terms of four patterns, and then we can go down the mountain and see the kind of action that responds to these 4 points of view. I'm trying to be quick here because I don't want to take too much time. So let's maybe just go forward, and we can go back to any one of these later and explore them in some more detail. So the next slide, please. I just want to introduce some elements of interaction design that polyscopy may require or call into being. So what we see here is a pattern, right? And the idea is that I am putting together some basic insights of some interesting or great people or insightful people. We are weaving them together into a pattern. And each insight is represented in some way or other. In polyscopy now, I'm using vignettes, so there is a story told, and then these stories, when they're told together and woven together into a bigger story, they point to a pattern. And the pattern is something that makes you say, oh my God, because you see that it's a pattern, right? It's not just an instance that is represented, but it is reproduced in all walks of life. And that points to the big picture, right? Then when we see these patterns, then we abstract and we see our world in a new way. Okay, next, please. And so this is what we see when we go down the mountain, right? There is a prototype, some action. In this case, it's a book project or a media design project called Convenience Paradox. It has certain design patterns. And what I wanted to say with this slide is that my major challenge, or our major challenge that has remained, is making connections. This is, I think, where Frode is profoundly right, but this is where his methodology will find its real home. It's truly meaningful application. The thing is this: we have on the sides built up a context. By going up the mountain, we have seen that there are certain needs, certain ways of certain points of action that need to be present. And then we respond to those needs by creating a prototype and placing it into reality. We are placing the prototype here into the context of those needs that we already recognized and showing in what way the prototype responds to those needs. Now, with the prototype, we can specify design patterns. What are the innovations that the prototype is representing and bringing into being, into reality? Then we have to carefully link those with the context that has been established, and possibly with other related questions and other related points of action. I don't know how to do this yet. But I realized that in order to understand something like polyscopy, as you know, I'm going through the polyscopy platform. I have been going with the ISIS, and I realized that as I'm presenting these things to her, I'm being clear to myself, but not to her really, because I'm missing to show the connections. Next. And then there is this question, how to crowdsource vision. Now, polyscopy is supposed to become an evolving roadmap to an impending enlightenment. And it is supposed to evolve through what I'm calling here crowdsourcing. We're engaging the people into co-creating a vision. Polyscopy as it is now, it's really just a seed. It's to strike a conversation, and the conversation is supposed to blossom online. Now, when we talk about co-creating a vision, it is an interesting question, what part of the job belongs to an individual? If you think that visions so far have been largely created in minds of great people like Doug, right? And in what way can the crowd co-create? When I say a vision, I mean really a gestalt change, right? A kind of a completely new way of looking at things. It is a question, it is, I think, a very interesting question for us that remains to be answered. Next, and I think it's the last one. Okay, this is my thank you slide. It's Knowledge Federation as connecting the dots. We further Knowledge Federation by working on this project. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That was.
So Dino, I think for me, I get lost right around here. In other words, when you introduce this diagram here, are these labels, the back to Ptolemy, simplicity, Heisenberg, paranormal, destruct, are these basically proxies for other concepts that are yet to be developed? Or are they specific concepts for how this particular view works?
Okay, so the question is on several levels, and please ask again if I miss exactly the way you want it to be answered. But what you see here is we're talking about polyscopy interaction design, right? And so here we see a kind of a navigational gadget, you can say. In the middle is the big point, and on the sides, there are aspects. In another representation of this is this information eye, right? It's the circle on top of a square, where the square basically holds up the circle. It is a basis for the circle. And so what you see here is the square of the circle, right? 4 edges of the square on the sides and the circle in the middle. And we are saying that there is something that that might play or needs to play the role of the Copernicus. We are building a context for that something by showing 4 patterns in this case, right? They're going to be patterns. And so when you click on any one of those, you cannot click now because this is not a website, but just snapshots from the website. But when you click, you enter into a pattern. And this pattern is supposed to show you why the situation in our knowledge work is ready for an enlightenment-like change. This is not common sense, right? Typically, we see the knowledge work as we have it as, the state of the art. It's the way things are supposed to be. Surely people did the same in the Middle Ages, right? Once the things change, then we look back and we say, oh my God. And so the question is here, can we see the same kind of thing now, right? The same possibility. Can we look at our knowledge work and say, my God, this is really like the Middle Ages. This is totally ready for change. And so I'm building this insight in terms of 4 patterns. We don't see those four patterns here. They're not represented, right? But I'm speaking of 2 levels now, the interaction design level and the content design level. In the content design level, you see how this works, right? You click on back to Ptolemy, and there is a story being told. And the effect is, the expected effect is, oh my God, this is really like the Middle Ages. Yeah, this meaning the knowledge work that we have now. On the interaction design level, you have a kind of a basic navigational gadget that allows you to go more or less up and down the mountain, right? The circle in the middle, and then you explore, you sort of acquire that gestalt by exploring the 4 side views or aspects. Over. Sam, I hope this more or less answers your question.
That audio did not come through to me. I don't know if it went to Stan or to the actual recording, but I guess is if we go back to the example that we tried last week, which is let's apply polyscopy to a discussion around COI and polyscopy itself.
Yeah, I'm
losing. We apply this diagram to that question. How do we apply this diagram to that dialogue? No,
this is a little bit like objects in Simula, right? So it's a template, it's a pattern. So we would be looking at the situation at hand. We would be looking for the big insight, the gestalt, putting it into the middle, and then looking at the key aspects that reveal the Gestalt, right? That enable anybody to see the Gestalt. And then within those aspects, we would be looking for patterns. That means stories, something that truly illustrates in a moving way, in a sticky way, illustrates an aspect of the situation, so that when one sees sufficiently many of these aspects, this is like looking from all sides, right? You have seen the situation from this side and from that side, and finally you're convinced, okay, so this is really the case, right? Our knowledge work is like the Middle Ages. It's totally ready for change. Applying it to another context would require, at this moment, a little bit of thought, right? So I'm not ready to pull the card out of my sleeve and play it. But if we sit down and work on it for a little bit of time, we'll come up with good ideas. Sam, you may be muted.
I am, in large part because much of your trying to piece together what you said from the pieces that I actually heard.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I also hear you in small chunks. I don't know what. One possibility is to share the recording which I have, which should be complete. Another possibility is to just go through the whole thing one more time next time. Hopefully with through there.
And if we have a different audience, that would also still be useful.
Right. So, yeah, I was trying to be, so maybe if you don't post this one because it's not very good quality. Sam, if this is lousy quality, then maybe let's just create a new one next time. You're muted, Sam.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? I would agree.
Yes.
The bits and pieces are, I can't even piece it together. I understand it well enough, I think, that I can, but that's just me. And I may be very wrong. Over.
Stan, was this coming to you? Was my story coming to you in bits and pieces? Or
no, your story came through clear. Sam's having a problem with transmission today. So I guess he's getting both bits and pieces and giving bits and pieces. I'm sorry, Sam, that's got to be frustrating.
Sam, you were bits and pieces today.
Yes, and I knew that going in. I apologize in advance. Clearly it's worse than I thought, and I'm just hoping that the recording was direct from each of you and didn't get...
Well, that's good to find out. Yeah, and Dino, just a summary real quick. I would like to take, well, not this page, but nonetheless your work, and actually try to map between the ideal structure, which I see as so important to have this as an overriding concept to our actual work. There we go. That works fine for me. Or right there's fine. Excuse me. But I'd really like to see what we learn as we agonize over how to connect the concepts, which are pure, and so on, to our actual work. And that may help us to better structure our actual work, to see to it that the pieces work together in a way that appears to be complete from my understanding of what you're telling us. I very much want to see us put this to practice in a prototype fashion. What do you think, Dino? Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. That's exactly what I'm proposing, right? I think it will help more than Dino. This will help.
Okay, I thought so, but I wanted to be sure I was clear too. Thank you.
Let me dance for you some points of synergy, right? Let's say that, or let's imagine that more and more people will be interested in what in the world do we do with the global issues, right? And like ourselves, more and more people will say, okay, but we're not just going to sit and cry about global warming or something or other. What is this really telling us on a deeper level, right? What has to change, and in what way can we use the crisis in order to spin off a whole new era of progress, rather than try to, in quotes, solve the problems in the context of existing modalities of thought and action, and institutions, not the least. And so, if there are more and more people with this type of question, then polyscopy might become a really popular platform, popular thing, because this is what it's about, right? It's about co-creating that vision. And what I'm hoping to do with the existing content is to provide enough of that vision so that the whole thing is really interesting, right? It's worth going there and looking at it. And then we can, with a little bit of work, with a little bit of interaction design, Frederick has, for example, agreed. We have Frode, who is also phenomenal talent. With a few talented people like this, we can create something which is also totally, first of all, a phenomenally interesting theme, and then presentation also phenomenally interesting. And so in no time, this can become a sticky kind of attractive object on the web, right? And so if that happens, then that can carry the interaction design. If we do novel interaction design, it can bring interaction design into the actual world, into the actual practice, because lots of people will see it, lots of people will be using it, and will say, wow, this is it. This is. So the synergy is between content and interaction design, right? That's, I think, clear. And so I have been working quite a bit on designing interesting content and some beginnings of interaction design, so that we have something in the sandbox. It's not in the sandbox, it's best sandbox. It's not just sand. And now the question is, can we gather around the sandbox and start playing and have lots of fun, right? Engage. Sam, did you hear this, or was this totally in bits and pieces?
40 to 50% of it.
Oh man, okay. Now we should probably
don't try to repeat. I think I'm just a lost cause today.
No, that's fine. So we have some recording, and
I will prepare one slide and one question that is really perplexing me, but I will not try to do it today because it's just going to.
Right. This is so maybe let's finish early today, and
actually, if you don't mind, could we do an experiment? I'm going to drop off, but I'm going to hopefully keep the meeting going for the two of you and see if that's good. Then that means that the audio from each of you is going to the server directly. Both of you end the meeting also, then unfortunately we'll be done. And we'll learn more about Zoom. Okay, so I'm going to drop off now.
Right, that's okay. So we'll just say a few words to.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm going to drop off right now.
Call it a day. Wonderful. Have a great day.
All right. You too. Yeah, I'm anxious to see where this goes. I know you're still in the midst of designing it at many levels, and I'm anxious to see how we take it one step at a time. If you could call steps, I don't know that's appropriate, but nonetheless, I'm just hoping there's some prototypes that help us to really wrestle with what tools work best for what element. But what I came to realize today, I guess for the first time, I'm a little slow here, is that we've had a lot of projects. We've had a lot of discussions over the years, and I participated in many others. What's always been missing is what you're providing here is we go down the road and lots gets accomplished by lots of people, obviously. Much is published, much is accomplished. Nonetheless, there seems to always be this missing master, I don't know what to call it, but it's what you're presenting, is this larger scope that we work within so that we have a better sense of how things should tie together. We're always looking at what it takes to make it actually happen, but we need that framework. And
yes,
that's what I'm realizing is I'm not hearing that framework in most of the things I participate in. We just assume it. And it's not that we're all as human beings doing a bad job of assuming it. It's just that, in fact, we've accomplished an awful lot without it. But I am seeing us, we're at this point now where we're all of us so overloaded with this constant flow of data and information, or whatever you want to call it. It's hardly even information, it's come so fast that there just needs to be this overarching structure that we sort of shape things so they better fit together. But I'm thinking you hit upon an example, an excellent one, which is the Green Revolution. I've read a fair amount of material from so many different sources, and I realized, to me, it seems hopeless at the moment that we could ever bring this vast number of conversations that exist in countless numbers of repositories, somehow bring it together to, and this is what brought me to you to begin with, your vision of knowledge federation. It's a necessary concept today. I didn't realize that in the beginning, but now it's vital. Otherwise, we become the what's the biblical phrase? The Tower of Babylon, where we're just all talking different languages, or not so much languages. We're all talking different ideas that are related, but we don't know how to pull them together. My frustration of this issue led to flipping this whole concept of shared knowledge upside down, in a sense that I recognized that we all have, as a group working on a project, all have our own take on it, our own mindset to begin with, and our own context that we bring to it. I'm not so sure there'll ever be such a thing as a shared context, a shared mindset. I think it is we that alter our mindsets to begin with, the core mindset and the context that we bring to it to better understand each other. But in the end, to have say a Google document over here that captures everything seems convenient, yet I think we might be better off if we each had our own version of it with our own annotations on it that are meant for us to help interpret, plus shared annotations, which is really another form of dialogue. Just this whole structure suggests that we've got a ways to go before we get there. I would have much to say about it, but I'm not going to make much sense at this point because it's just up here.
I have to essentially leave now, and we are in the midst of something interesting. What you're raising is, but my passion has been to I call it prospect the frontier through knowledge federation. Prospect the frontier means really sort of organizing the space. To begin with, the frontier is just a kind of a baseline.
Okay.
So that people can engage, right? So that the work can be done. And my sense is that we are getting there really rapidly now. I have to go now because I have to catch a bus.
Okay, understood. Go catch that bus.
But we continue next time, and we look forward to it.
You bet. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye now.
Goodbye. Good luck with moving and things.